You're listening to the Inner Strength Show. If you want to step into your greatness, you've come to the right place. Here is your host, the human strength expert, Kyle Newell.
What's up, guys? It's Kyle back at you with another episode of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. It's actually pretty early in the morning, before 6 a.m., so I'm actually hooked up to my BioForce HRV right now, which is something cool that I use to measure the readiness and the state of my nervous system. Now, what's cool about this, and again, this is not an advertisement, right? I don't have sponsors or anything like that, but what's really cool about this is that it used to cost about, 20, in the neighborhood of $20,000 to get something called an omega wave, and the omega wave would kind of read the state of your nervous system if you're ready to go again. And it was something that was popular with some of the Navy SEAL type programs or forces and some NFL teams. And this was a fraction of that. I think this cost me about $200, but I basically hooked the chest strap up. I got the app on the phone. It reads the heart rate, so it's not just taking the heart rate. It's looking at something called heart rate variability, which I won't get too far into. And then it gives me a number and a color, whether it's red, amber, or green. If it's green, I know I could go train hard and I've recovered. Today it looks like I'm amber, so I can still train, but recovery capabilities are going to be a bit lower than they normally are. And I'm going in for a leg workout after this, so that should be fun. Getting back on track here, this show is all about helping you find and unlock your inner strength. And you all have inner strength, okay? You all have an inner voice that you need to share with the world. And it's not up to you to decide whether it's right for you to share that with the world. If you don't share it with the world, that's actually being selfish, because you might say something or you might have an idea that somebody out there really needs to hear about. And then think about this. You're not going to please everybody. You don't have to be famous. There's over 7 billion people or something like that now on the planet Earth. You can find a few. You can find one person that's going to need to hear your message. All right? I want you to step into your greatness, and part of that is going to be in finding the other 3 F's, your fun, fulfillment, and your freedom. So on today's show, what I'm going to be talking about, some cool omens, if you will, or cool events in my life that kind of, we're going to call the guides on your path, okay? And these might have been the guides on my path, one of my brother's paths, but these guides are there if you're paying attention. And if you have your eyes open and your ears open and your heart is ready for that transformation, these things come at you all the time. Remember what I talked about a few episodes back, that inspiration is always looking for somebody to plug into. It's always looking for a port. And if not you, it's going to find somebody else. It's got to come down from the universe. The universe needs to create new things. That's what it's in, a perpetual state of growth. Okay. Remember, something's not growing, it's really regressing. So you have 2 options there. So these inspirational ideas and these dreams that come to you, and these bursts of insight and these flashes of brilliance, if you don't choose to act on them, somebody else will find them and act on them. And that's just the way it is. One of my brothers, we call Presh. His real name is Reese. He, from the time we were kids, was, I would say, very, very bright with math, and then also just a crazy type of photographic memory. And I want to preface this too, before I get too far into Presh's story. I've got 3 brothers. By far, academically, I was the least smart of the 4 of us. But I didn't let that stop me, okay? That I think, drove me further, with my basketball training and using that groundwork to, so, okay, how do you train and overachieve, and then taking that into the bodybuilding, which kind of led me to Newell strength and all that. So you always got to find the positives in that, right? But getting back to Presh, actually one of his former elementary school teachers was just in the gym at Newell Strength the other day, and she was saying, when he was in elementary school, they used to have to ship him to the middle school because they didn't have any math that was advanced enough. So think about that. They would send a special bus to his school, ship him to the middle school for a couple hours of math, and then bring him back because he was so advanced. And even for some of the teachers, when we were young, if we played the game of memory, and you started flipping over cards, as soon as he saw where a card was, so it took a couple rounds, he would just whip through that game. I'm talking like 3 years old, 4 years old. And then, if you're playing Rummy 500 with him as another example, as soon as you pick up that stack of cards that's been on a table that everybody can see, he'll know every card that you have in your hand. It's almost an unfair advantage. Now, Presh went to school to Penn State and got a degree in engineering. And when he came out, he had an internship, a very good internship at a place. And he lasted, I don't even know, a couple weeks, if that. And said, you know what, forget this. I want to go play poker. Now, Presh had been playing poker online, I guess, towards the later years of high school, and he did really well. But poker's a hobby, right? So when he comes out and says he's going to do that, everybody tells him that he's crazy and that he's stupid, and you got to play it safe. You got to get a job where you have securities, where you have benefits, and you have a pension, and what are you going to do about your health insurance, blah, blah, blah. And he just kept going with it, and now he would have graduated in over 10 years ago. So that's just over 10 years ago. And he's played poker in basically every country, exotic place in the world that you could think of. He's ranked one of the top players in the world for online poker. But, he has a gift, and he followed that, and it's allowed him to live this life where people say, man, how did he, figure that out at such a young age? But he followed his heart, and he realized, okay, what's the worst that's going to happen if I'm a 21-year-old kid coming out of college and this doesn't work? Then it's okay. I can go back and get a job being an engineer. But he's lived a life of admiration. He kind of was always an inspiration to me in that he went down the less beaten path, okay? So remember about what we talked about a few episodes ago. Whatever the herd is doing, you go the opposite way. Most of the time, 99% of the time, that's going to lead you down a path to success. So he's still, where's he living now? He's living in the States, South Beach, has an awesome girlfriend. I'm curious to see where that story ends up, but he followed his signs, and getting back to how I was the least smart of the four of us boys, that was a sign for me too that I was just going to have to work a little bit harder and become a little more obsessed with something. To be great at anything, you got to be a little bit obsessed. So if you go back about a decade, slightly more as well, I had all of a sudden, it was the summer of 2005, developed this mysterious stomach illness. Didn't think much of it at first, but later went on to affect me for 2+ years. I went to doctors all over the country. I went to Tennessee. I went to the world famous Cleveland Clinic, and I kept hoping that it was going to be something they can give me a pill and it would go away, or there was a period of time when we thought it was Crohn's disease, and I actually had physical surgery, so I had real symptoms. Okay, there was nothing though. I mean, I had even places locally here in New Jersey, for some of the university hospitals, do experimental procedures where I actually had them try to kill nerves. Studies I looked up from Istanbul, I remember, bringing them in and saying, look, they did it over here. Here's what you have to do. And I actually found a doctor that was cool enough to do that. And that didn't work. So then I was just devastated. I thought I was going to have to live with the pain and the irritation and ulcers and all types of stuff like that for the rest of my life. That's when I was first exposed to a man named Dr. John Sarno. I was driving around listening to Howard Stern, and Stern was talking about this doctor that helped cure his back pain. And although that's not what was affecting me at the time, I liked what he was saying, so I picked up Sarno's book. It took me a long time to really get my head around, but I would say, okay, I'm desperate. I got to do something. And the whole idea with Sarno's TMS, which is tension myositis syndrome, or if I like to think of it as too much shit. You're going to get TMS episodes when you get too much shit going on in your life. So you cannot separate the brain, okay, and the body. It's not that you're imagining, some of the stuff that could happen to you where there's no physical cause. So think about the brain, just by reaction can move a limb, right? So the brain can change the body and direct the body. Now, I don't want to get too far into TMS because that could be a whole series of episodes, and it is something I'm very passionate about because it's changed my life. But through this mysterious stomach illness and surgeries and whatnot, I had decided that I needed to compete in a bodybuilding show again, just to get my mind off it. So now we fast forward to 2007, right around when I started Newell Strength. Actually, I started Newell Strength after the bodybuilding thing, so you could see how this all kind of led together. But through TMS, I knew that the power of the mind, okay, but I was having trouble buying into it. But as I started getting ready for my bodybuilding show, each week, my symptoms started going away. Again, I had them for a couple of years. Then I started saying, holy crap, it's about what I'm focusing on. And I kept getting ready for the show, and stuff just kept fading away. These symptoms kept fading away. And again, these were real symptoms. These were things I had surgery for. No physical cause, though. But that knowing the deeper part of this, that how powerful our mind is, led me to start reading things like Tony Robbins and other inspirational, Zig Ziglar, motivational books, okay? Brian Tracy. And that led down the path after that those two bodybuilding shows that year of 2007. I said, okay, I'm going to, I was so inspired from the reading, which again, I was led to through that I said, I'm going to start a business. And ultimately became Champion's Choice Personal Training, which, morphed into Newell Strength, which is still, a thriving business and, something that's kind of set the standard in different ways. But that all came through, just paying attention to the omens and some seemingly unrelated incident. And in the office over there at the gym, I actually have a baby picture of myself. I'm probably, I would say, 10 months old in the picture. And it's me sitting in overalls in the grass. And my legs are underneath of a barbell, okay, with those old sand-filled plates. And a lot of people think that's Braxton, my son now. And I said, no, that's me. And what's crazy about that is that it's like it was a sign that that's what I was destined to do. Just like Reese was destined to become this fantastic world-class poker player. And the omens the omens are going to be there throughout your entire life, okay? You just got to be, again, paying attention. The first book, I've read magazines when I was growing up and all that, when I really started getting into lifting, but I saw this ad in one of the bodybuilding magazines, could be right before my senior year, for a book, which I still have over here, called Big Beyond Belief. This is before the internet was really successful, or that sounds stupid, not before the internet was really successful, but before, you were ordering a lot of stuff and doing e-commerce. So I remember reading this ad and cutting out that piece and mailing it in to get this book about these Bulgarian weightlifting secrets and secrets of Tom Platz and Leo Costa. Now, Tom Platz probably has the best bodybuilding legs of all time. So I got this book, right? And that became, my training philosophy for the next 3-4 years. And it was a lot different than what people were doing. But I read the book, reread it. I mean, if you see the thing now, I got it on my shelf over here. It's actually peeled. Some of the covers peeled off like snake skin. It just looks like it's beat to hell. But I used that. That was my first book. And that was the first book that I used as a guideline to write training programs for people. So a really cool thing, right? To bring it full circle with that. Last year, a little more than a year ago, with my mastermind group, we went out to Nevada, and I actually got to meet John Carlton. I got a picture of John Carlton while I was holding that original book. And the reason that's interesting is because John Carlton is one of the best copywriters in the world, but he is the one who wrote that ad. So how cool is that? That, the start of my educational career in that field, I got to meet the guy that kind of lit me on that path. So the signs are there. These are guides on your path to confirm that, okay, when you're paying attention to them, to let you know you're going on the right path. It might take a left up here, it might take a right, but you're going down the right path. This is what you were meant to do. So in recapping today's show, guys, I know we could take each of those things and make them into their own long form story shows, but some things happen in your life, okay, you're not going to know at the time what the reason is. So, that saying everything happens for a reason. But when you look back on things in your life, you're going to be able to find a reason in everything that happened and an experience, and you're going to be able to connect the dots looking behind. You can't connect the dots going ahead, really. It's when you look back and you can say, okay, I'm going to plot my course. It's kind of like a mountain climber. When they're going up, somebody's got to be the first one up, right? There's none of those safety latches or safety points and checkpoints on the way up. Somebody's got to be the first one to not nail those into the rock, tie the rope to it for the people behind them. So looking back, yes, you could connect where those safety notches are. And that's not even the right term, but you know what I'm talking about. But looking ahead, there is no clearly defined path. Okay, when you look back on it, though, it's going to make sense. So that's all I got for you today, guys. I'm going to go hit a leg workout. The dream for me is for you to become great and to share that message with somebody else. And remember, great doesn't mean you have to be famous. It doesn't mean you need $1 million to start whatever it is you're trying to do. It means, what is your message? What do you really believe in? And I think we'll probably be going over that. Next episode is doing a mini workshop here through the Unlocking Your Inner Strength podcast with how do you get clear on what it is that you're supposed to be doing? Because so many people will always say, Kyle, I don't like what I'm doing, but I don't know what I want to do. Well, what you want to do might not exist just yet. So you got to start thinking outside the box sometimes in that realm where everybody wants everything to fit into these neat little boxes, okay? So I always, I use the cubbies at the gym as an example. Everybody wants stuff to fit into there. That's because people want you to conform. Remember the JFK quote, conformity is going to rob you of freedom and growth. That's following the herd. So it might be, okay, you're a lawyer and you want to do this. Okay, so you might have to merge two different ideas and come up with something, create something. And I say that because one of the guys I was helping was a lawyer and he was wanting to start something different, but there's different ways you can do this. Einstein called that combinatory play, where you combine two seemingly unrelated ideas and you come up with something new. You could use that with anything. I used to use that with training programs, coming up with new exercises and things of that nature. But that's it. Make sure you +1 yourself, figure out how you can move the chains forward by tonight or tomorrow and do that thing and just keep doing that. And before the next episode, also, I want you to give some thought to what your definition of success is, what your definition of happiness is, and what your definition of wealth is. Make a bullet point list, and then, I'm going to go over some of that stuff with you. So thanks again from the bottom of my heart for listening. It means the world to me. I've been loving this so far. I'll be back next week, guys. Peace.
You've been listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes.